Princess Steps, week 8. Tonight we're talking about injury prevention. So I'm really excited to have John speak tonight because even though I've heard him do this talk several times, I never get tired of it because everything he has to say is so important and so foundational to Princess Steps. Injury prevention, there's so many things. I listed on the update many different topics that we've already talked about that have to do with injury prevention. So please go back and read that for review. Also, I wanted to remind you that we're having a special event this Friday and Saturday during normal hours, 10 to 6 Friday, 10 to 5 on Saturday, about bra fitting. And that's also one of the very important things. And just for you, well, actually not just for you, but for anybody that comes, we just can't put it out there publicly, but I can tell you, you get an additional 5% off. So you get 15% off the bras. And when you purchase a bra, we're going to do a raffle. That raffle is head to toe from Brooks. That means shoes, a top, and a bottom. Right. So that's a little incentive that I want you to know about. Not everybody knows about it. So come see me or myself this Friday or Saturday for a bra fitting, and we'll get you hooked up. Now, without further ado, here is my wonderful husband, John, talking about a very important topic, injury prevention. And I'll see you cheetahs later.
Hello. Okay, so what I usually like to do on this talk is go back a few weeks. The capillary talk, okay? So in that third week, we talked about the 3 stages of building fitness, okay? First being that aerobic fitness. And in week 3, I promised you that by the time we got about 2 months into this, week 8, okay, 2 months into it, you should be feeling a difference. If you've been consistent, you should be feeling like that aerobic base has been building, okay? That you're not as winded going up and down stairs, for instance. You're dealing with the heat now that we have heat, okay? That your endurance is up and you're starting to build some muscle and tone some muscle, okay? Because that next stage, the first 6-8 weeks is that building the aerobics, building the capillaries, okay? Getting that oxygen and blood moving through your system. The next phase is where we're at now. Kind of the next 6 to 8 weeks is building actual muscle cells. Because what we've done now is set up that plumbing system, set up the feeding system. You got more tubes going to all your working muscles, all the microscopic vessels, those capillaries, are sending more blood, more oxygen, more nutrients to your working muscles. So what's going to happen is you'll recover faster, okay? Where the first few weeks you might have been a little sore just because you're adding in more activity, going more miles than you've gone in a while. Had the COVID layoff, getting back out there again. So this time, with building that muscle cells, building not straining those muscles, you're feeding them with all the good stuff now, okay? So as we move into the next 6 to 8 weeks, that's one of the reasons why we take this break here, kind of back down a little bit. There's an awful lot of data, an awful lot of science in actually backing down for a week, okay? 2 months of building consistently, and if you've been following the workouts, you've probably noticed the way Susan has them written, no matter which group you're in, each week, progressively, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. For like the Panthers and cheetahs, you're running a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. The walking groups, you're going further, maybe picking the pace up in that middle part after the warm-up. Remember, always at warm-up. Picking it up in that middle part, things have increased now for 2 months. So this week we back down a little bit just to make sure that all of that training that you've been doing kind of sets in, okay? The kind of common misconception is in order to train for things, you just got to work hard, 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 hard. The training effect, okay, doesn't take place until you rest, until you back off, okay? In the marathon world, if you're training for a marathon, 2 weeks before the marathon, you taper down, okay? You decrease your mileage a whole lot. You let your muscles and your body recover from the big workload that you've done to get to that point. You know, we've all watched the Olympics or the big competitions, wide world of sports, and you know, whatever the main competition is, when you get to conference season or championship season, that's when things got to back down a little bit on intensity. You've done so much work and done so much strengthening. Now you got to back down just a little bit and recover, relax, and let that training effect take place, okay? If you don't, that's when the injuries start popping up, okay? The muscle strains, the aches, the pains, the things that just linger and just don't ever seem to go away. That's the overdoing it part. So the positive part is we've built that aerobic base, okay? You've got more blood and oxygen and nutrients going to building muscle cells at a microscopic level, okay? With that comes confidence. With that comes, I'm going to push it a little bit harder today. I'm going to go a little further today. I'm going to take advantage of this newfound fitness level that I have, okay? Once you start doing that and start taking off at too high of an increase in work, that's when the overuse injuries take place. Okay, how many people got the shots, right? Were you sore when they gave you the shot? No, it was a day or two after, right? Okay? Was it whatever arm you had it in? That muscle soreness kicked in about 24, 48 hours, okay? Think of that, you know, that's kind of relevant to what's going on right now, since so many of us are getting shots, that you don't feel that injury to your muscle, you don't feel that ache to your muscle when it's taking place, okay? So when you're out there enjoying a beautiful day like today, you push it a little bit farther, go a little bit faster, you know, you strain things a little bit, you feel great while you're doing it, okay? Just like it felt great when you sat up from the chair after you got the shot, thinking, no more COVID for me, right? But it's the day after or 2 days after when the actual muscle soreness really sets in, okay? So Susan put it in the update, something that's very, very important, whether or not something is a serious injury or it's just kind of overdoing it muscle-wise, is that 48 to 72 hour rule, okay? So between 2 and 3 days, if things get worse, considerably worse over the next, you know, the second or third day, then you got to back off a little bit. If you have that time between 48 and 72 hours, things either level off or they decrease in soreness or discomfort, then you know, hey, you just overdid it for a day, okay? How many people have been out doing yard work, digging in the dirt, okay? She's been doing a lot of it, Susan. And, you know, there's weeds all over the yard, so we've got to dig them all up today. You got to spend 5 hours, and then you get up and you're like, oh yeah, my back hasn't done that in a while, okay? So you overdo things, and you don't feel it until the day after or 2 days after. And that's just how the human body works. That's really quite normal. So when you know you overdid it, when you're a little bit sore, keep an eye on that third day, okay? That's 72 hours. did it get worse, or is it starting to taper down a little bit? And you're starting to feel a little bit stronger again. So with that aerobic base that we've built, you should be able to push it, back off, recover. Push it, back off, recover. Okay? And then that's where you're going to start really increasing your fitness level. Because those muscles, hey, I get the routine now. Okay? We've built a great plumbing system. We brought all this blood and oxygen in. Now we can push it. Then we back off. Then we push it again. Then we back off. Then we push it again. We back off. And you just get stronger and stronger and stronger. Okay? So that's the goal, and that's kind of how all the workouts have been set up over the course of these 12 weeks. Susan will talk a lot about more in week 11 and 12 with, what do you do next? But that's kind of the routine that we want to see you start establishing, is that you push it a little bit after this back off week. You're going to see the next 2 weeks, week 9 and 10, at the intensity level or the distance or the amount of, for the Panthers and Cheetahs, the amount of running is going to increase. That's okay, because now you've had that week where you've recovered a little bit. So then your body's going to look for that next stage, pushing it a little bit more, okay? So let's talk about some of the aches and pains that, typically a running or walking injury, you don't know that it happened until weeks later, okay? If a strain, I feel a little bit something in my quad there, or a little bit in my calf. There's just something going on. It's kind of bothersome. It's not really a big deal. If it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse, never seems to quite go away, okay, maybe a pair of shoes might help, okay? We've done that for years, where people come in with just little wiggles and niggles in their ankles and shins and calves, and just things are hurting. And then new pair of shoes, things feel great, because your body was getting beat up by not having the shoes. And we talked about that week 2. But overdoing it, little by little, just a little bit each day, that's what accumulates over time, okay? And that ache or pain, that nagging soreness, turns into something that just never seems to go away. Okay, a lot of times for walkers and runners, one of the first places you feel that aches and pains, bottom of your feet, okay? That plantar fasciitis, okay? We talked about, I had the human foot out here on week 2 when we were talking about the shoes. Kind of that point in your heel where all those tendons come down and attach, that's where the soreness comes from. Because all those tendons that attach on the bottom part of your heel, I'm just using my hand, but the bottom part of your heel, those are all the tendons and ligaments that run down your calves. So if your calves are too tight, or your shins are too tight, all the strain goes down to that point in your heel where all the ligaments and tendons start getting tugged from that point, okay? Susan talked about it with the rolling out week. See how all this kind of fits in week to week to week? The rolling out week, rolling out your calves, keeping those calves nice and loose, staying hydrated, all right? Very important, especially now that all of a sudden it's 80 degrees and where everybody's a little bit dry right now. And so staying hydrated, not getting tight, being aware that your calves really need to be the loosest part of your body when you're walking and running a lot. Okay. Little soreness outside of the knees, okay? Especially on the lateral side, so the outside of your knee. That could be a point of what's called IT band syndrome, iliotibial band syndrome, where the tightness is actually up in your hips, but the connection point is down on the outside of your knee, okay? Again, it's kind of something that kind of typically for most walkers, runners, it's just kind of a nagging ache, just almost like a burn, like right, like right there on the outside of the knee. It just kind of burns. Doesn't really hurt, doesn't really bother you, but it just kind of burns. That's something to keep in mind, that if that starts showing up and you're feeling it quite a bit, that up here in the hips, that's what's tight. And this is the connection point down here that's tugging on that, okay? So a lot of people, oh, my knee hurts, my knee hurts, my knee hurts. Typically it's up in your hips, okay? Everything's connected. Low back issues, okay? If that's something that just seems to be bothering you a lot, Susan's probably talked about it in a couple of the sessions now. If you sit at a desk all day, if you sit tucked over your phone all day, okay, get up, stretch, get things loosened up, get those hips opened up, okay? Because that's what's really going to beat up your low back, is really too much sitting more than anything else, okay? So knees, most people running, walking, because it's the natural motion of our bodies, okay? It's more if you're kicking a soccer ball or playing basketball or tennis or something like that, where there's a lot of lateral twisting of the knees or hips. That's where you get the strains so much. Running and walking, not as much, because that's just the natural forward motion of our human bodies, and that's how we're supposed to function. Okay, it's the twisting side to side that really typically beats up the knee joints. Okay. Back to week 3 for a second. When we talked about, stage 1 is that aerobic stage. Stage 2 is building the muscles. Okay, stage 3, and that's the stage that takes the longest to get to, is actually building that tissue around the joints. Okay, the tendons, the ligaments that don't get as much blood flow, they're the ones that, in that final stage of really building fitness, they're the ones that get stronger, okay, and more resilient to the pounding that takes place in walking and running, okay. Let's see what I wanted to put in there. Core. Susan talked about core. No, that's next. That's next week, right?
No, actually, urinary incontinence. Stress incontinence is next week. New topic.
Did you do core yet?
I did core.
Okay, so core week. The schedule changes. Sometimes core is right after my talk. So the core is really important. Okay, some of the tips that Susan showed you, that's going to keep your whole body a lot stronger. Okay, a lot of the things, the injuries and nagging things that take place in walking and running, we talked about good form, princess steps, right? Okay, overdoing it, overstretching those muscles, okay, or having a weak core and just kind of being slumped over all the time, those are going to create the low back issues. Those are going to create the short hamstrings and the tightness in the backs of the legs. Okay, so the leaders always remind you. Susan always reminds you. We've renamed the women's clinic Princess Steps. It's the real deal. I mean, that is what keeps the injuries away more than anything else. Okay, having good form, not overdoing it, not overstriding. Okay, once you start seeing your toes, if you look down and you see your toes up in the air like a big check mark, you got to back off. You got to get back to those princess steps. Okay, you want your feet to be underneath your body, not out in front of you. Okay, that's where a lot of the aches and pains that comes from walking and running really happen. It's that putting that foot way out in front of your body, hitting the ground, and all that shock just runs right up your legs. Okay. Pain scale? You want to talk about that?
You can talk about that, sure.
Okay. So in the update. Susan talked about the pain scale, okay? 0 to 10. 10 being, you know, emergency, get to the doctor, that's really, really, really bad. Most running, walking, aches and pains, injuries, kind of hang in that kind of 2 to 4, maybe up to 5 range, okay? Where, yeah, you feel a little bit of discomfort, a little bit of soreness. But once you start getting into that yellow zone, 5, 6, 7, that's where, again, you got to keep an eye on things. If you're feeling that consistently, day after day after day, 3 things you can do. Take a day off, okay? Talked about that. Sometimes that's okay. That's the best thing that your body needs. Or you can decrease the time, decrease your endurance, okay? Or decrease the intensity. So if there's a workout that you just don't feel like it's there today, okay? You just feel sore, something's been nagging you, or you spent one of those marathon days in the yard, you know, digging dirt all weekend long, or throwing bark dust or something, then you need to back off, back down that intensity a little bit. Let your body recover. The main thing that we're trying to do with this, the whole women's clinic and Princess Steps and the whole 12 weeks, is to build a consistency, all right? And sometimes in building consistency, you have to take a little bit of downtime to keep going, okay? We talked about back a few weeks ago about how many people join the gym, get in the gym. They work like crazy. They work so hard they can't even wash their hair because their arms are so sore, okay? That doesn't last very long. That's not really fun, that you're so sore that you can't even lift your arms or wash your hair, okay? That's overdoing it, and if you overdo it in the gym, you're gonna get to a point where you don't go back to the gym. If you overdo it in running and walking, you're gonna get to a point where, hey, this isn't fun anymore. But that's the really cool thing about the women's clinic, is the social side of it, the conversation pace, the great lineup of workouts that Susan's done all these years, is that in the social setting, you really enjoy what you're doing. It's a whole lot of fun. You have the conversations with the gals in your groups, and you're getting work done together with, you know, common goals. Hopefully soon. Events are coming back. The walks, the runs, the races. There's some stuff coming up in May, for sure, now. And some stuff definitely in June and July. So that those events, and I think Susan talks about that in the next week or two, those target things out there kind of help set that motivation to keep you going. So we're going to really focus in on those things in the next few weeks. So unless there's something...
I'll see if there's any questions.
Okay.
Any questions here?
Any questions in here?
For that, the burning on the side of the knee that's coming from the hip?
Yeah.
Is that the rolling out on the side, or is that a different, like, rolling
Rolling out is going to be... Okay, the question was about that IT band syndrome. Do you want to roll on the side? No. You want to roll where the muscles are, okay? Because the iliotibial band itself is just a band of very fibrous tissue that rolling it, it's going to hurt.
Okay.
You're not going to really loosen it.
If you roll it on it. Do
If
the
I go
front
back and
and the
watch
corner.
If I watch the rolling video, did we talk about what specific for? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go back and watch it.
Okay, good question. Any
Yeah,
questions?
basically roll the front and the corner and the butt. Yeah, explore the butt. There's no more
Okay,
questions in there.
Okay.
Thank you. And that. So, you know, I've talked a lot about consistency. John talked about it too. And I just want to give a very heartfelt message to everyone out there that perhaps for whatever reason hasn't been consistent. And I did address this in the update up at the very top in the introduction, that, you know, if something happened and you haven't been consistent, do you still do this back off week? And it kind of depends on you know, your individual situation, which I did address once again. But I just want to say that if there's some of you out there that, you know, you haven't been consistent and you feel reluctant to come back because you don't want to get in the group because you feel like maybe you can't keep up, I just want to encourage you, you know, you can always come back and be in a different group. If you were in a walk run transition group, you could perhaps join a walk group. Or, you know, at any rate, I just encourage you with all my heart and all my support and all my encouragement for you to get out there and do something. Get out there and go for a walk. Get out there and do something to make yourself feel good. We really don't want you to feel bad. We just want to help you to get out there and do something. It's not too late to start. It's never too late to start. We just want to help you, you know, do the right thing, do it the right way so that you enjoy it, and don't do too much too soon, too fast. You know, you can always go back to an earlier week and do that even if it's on your own. If you do have any questions, please don't hesitate